Great Value butter, a staple in many kitchens, was recently found to contain far less butterfat than advertised, essentially turning it into a watered-down version of the real thing. But that's just the beginning. Alongside it, once trusted brands like Kerrygold, Challenge, Land O'Lakes, and Bungie Butter have been pulled into a national recall due to contamination, oxidation, or undeclared allergens. If you're tired of being lied to, if you're ready to expose the truth they don't want you to know, then don't just watch. Join this fight. Hit subscribe right now so you never miss the facts the corporations hope you'll ignore. Every new video pulls back the curtain a little more, and together we're building a movement they can't silence. Subscribe, stay informed, and let's take back control, one truth at a time. From high peroxide levels to toxic seed oil blends and stealth recipe changes, each of these cases reveals a deeper failure within the food industry, a willingness to sacrifice safety and quality in pursuit of cheaper production. What looks like butter on the label is often a chemically altered, poorly tested substitute that quietly puts health at risk. The danger isn't isolated to a single brand or bad batch, it's systemic. These recalls are symptoms of a larger breakdown in transparency, regulation, and corporate ethics, where food safety takes a backseat to efficiency and marketing spin. While industrial producers cut corners, a few companies like Organic Valley, Strauss Family Creamery, and Rumiano's Organic continue to honor traditional methods, delivering real butter made from fermented cream and grass-fed sources without hidden additives. Choosing them isn't just about flavor, it's about drawing a line against dilution, deception, and neglect in the food we rely on every day. Let's get straight to it. Walmart just issued a nationwide recall involving 5 popular butter brands after uncovering contamination, chemical alterations, and labeling failures that pose real risks to your health. This isn't just a minor slip-up, this is a wake-up call about how broken the food industry has become. The brands in question, Great Value, Kerrygold, Challenge, Land O'Lakes, and Bungie Butter. These aren't obscure off-brand names. These are products that millions of Americans have in their refrigerators right now, and every one of them is tied to failures that should never have reached store shelves. Start with Walmart's own Great Value butter. Testing revealed that some batches didn't even meet basic butterfat standards. They were watered down, containing significantly less butterfat than advertised, and padded out with additives to imitate the real thing. What you're getting isn't butter, it's a diluted substitute, sold at a price that pretends to offer value but delivers deception. This is shrinkflation by stealth. They change the formula, not the price. You think you're getting real butter? You're paying for fillers. Then there's Kerrygold, once a symbol of purity and quality. Marketed as traditional Irish butter, known for grass-fed authenticity and minimal processing. But now, they've quietly altered their recipe, incorporating skim milk and cultures. That's not what consumers signed up for. It changes the texture, the flavor, and the nutritional value. And the worst part? They didn't advertise it. No transparency, no warning. Just a quiet cost-cutting maneuver that strips the product of its identity while still charging a premium based on a reputation that no longer matches what's inside the box. Challenge butter is a bigger problem. A large batch was found to contain high levels of peroxide, a clear sign of oxidation and spoilage. You wouldn't know it by taste at first, because oxidation doesn't always show up in the flavor immediately. But that doesn't mean it's harmless. Spoiled butter can trigger gut inflammation, weaken your immune response, and build up long-term damage inside your body. You buy butter thinking it's fresh, but when quality control fails and products oxidize, you're exposing yourself to food that can actively harm your system. Now let's talk about Land O'Lakes, a staple in American households. Their buttery spreads have undergone an oligogenic shift, a quiet reformulation that introduces cheap seed oils like canola, soybean, and palm oil into what's marketed as butter. These aren't harmless substitutions. Oxidized seed oils are directly linked to inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and even the acceleration of chronic diseases. This isn't just a hit to taste, it's a hit to your health. These oils change the structure of the product, reduce its nutrient value, and flood your body with unstable fats that are tough to process and harder to eliminate. And then there's Bungie Butter. This one wasn't caught by accident. It was recalled after it was discovered that it contained undeclared milk allergens. For people with dairy allergies or lactose intolerance, that's a serious risk. It's not just a label oversight, it's a violation of food safety. It shows how corporate carelessness and a lack of regulatory urgency can put lives at risk, especially when allergy-related recalls are treated like paperwork instead of emergency health issues. All of this paints a disturbing picture, not of isolated mistakes, but of a systemic failure in how our food is produced, labeled, and regulated. These brands are cutting corners to stay competitive, swapping out quality ingredients for cheaper, synthetic ones, and doing so behind the scenes. They rely on loopholes, lax regulation, and your trust to keep moving contaminated or altered products into your home. And where are the regulators? Overwhelmed, underfunded, behind the curve. There's no mandatory requirement for companies to disclose chemical processing methods, no enforced testing for peroxide levels, and no real accountability when ingredient formulas are altered without warning. So brands like these do it because they can, and because they know most consumers won't find out. This isn't just about butter, this is about how industrial food production has shifted from nutrition to manipulation. You're told you're buying something simple, pure butter. What you're often getting is a chemical blend, full of seed oils, skim milk, preservatives, or oxidized fats. These shortcuts stretch shelf life, cut costs, and boost profits, but your health pays the price. But there's a better way. Brands like Strauss Family Creamery, Organic Valley, and Rumiano Organic are doing what the others refuse to, keeping it honest. Their products are made with fermented cream, grass-fed cows, and minimal processing. No seed oils, no additives, no bait-and-switch ingredients, just real butter, dense, rich, and made the way it's supposed to be. Yes, these options cost more, but what you're paying for is trust, safety, and integrity, qualities that are being stripped away from mainstream food brands faster than you can read a nutrition label. Choosing better isn't about elitism, it's about protecting your body, your family, and your future from a system that no longer puts you first. Because let's be honest, if they're willing to lie about what's in butter, what won't they lie about? Food is one of the most intimate relationships we have. It fuels our lives, it's part of our families, it shapes our health, and it should be the one area where we're not constantly being misled, manipulated, and endangered by companies that care more about the bottom line than the people they serve. This recall wasn't just a product warning, it was a red flag for the entire industry. And if we keep ignoring these signs, the consequences only grow. More health risks, more silent substitutions, more toxic fillers, until there's nothing left of what real food used to be. So don't wait for the next recall to pay attention. Start now, check the label, research the brand, look beyond the front of the box and ask what's really inside. Because whether it's a corporate giant or a name you've trusted for years, the rules have changed, and they're not always on your side. If this gave you insight, like the video. If you know someone who still buys these recalled brands, send this to them. Leave a comment below on what brand you're switching to, or what ingredient warning made you stop buying mainstream butter altogether. And subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown, because the next product on your shelf might not be as safe as you think. What we're dealing with isn't just a few bad sticks of butter. This is a systemic rot inside a food industry that's supposed to feed and protect us. When Walmart recalls 5 major butter brands for contamination, mislabeling, and chemical alterations, it's not just a quality control issue, it's a warning about how broken this system truly is. And this time the evidence is on the shelf in plain sight. Great Value Butter, Walmart's flagship store brand, was exposed for selling products with significantly less butter fat than required by law. That's not just cutting corners, that's fraud. Butter by definition has a regulated fat content. When that drops, what you're left with is a reconstituted blend, fattened up with emulsifiers and preservatives to mimic the real thing. This is textbook shrinkflation, quietly downgrading your food while keeping the price the same. It's the illusion of value, and Walmart is banking on the fact that you won't notice. But when products start being recalled because of chemical manipulation or inaccurate labels, it's not just about economics, it's about safety. You think you're buying butter, you're getting something altered, diluted, and chemically engineered to seem close enough. And what about Kerrygold? This used to be the gold standard, literally. Authentic Irish butter, grass-fed, rich, and reliable. But now, without warning, the company added skim milk and culture alters to the formula, transforming the product entirely. The flavor profile changes, the texture changes, and the nutritional makeup shifts. It's not what consumers were promised. There was no big announcement, no rebrand, no label change, just a quiet cost-saving decision that eroded the very thing people were paying for: purity. These quiet recipe changes should infuriate you, not just because the product is different, but because you were never told. These companies build trust and loyalty by promising tradition, then betray that loyalty by sneaking in inferior ingredients while hoping you don't read the fine print. Challenge Butter takes it a step further. Their recall stemmed from high peroxide levels, a chemical marker that points to rancidity and spoilage. When you see that, you're not just dealing with an expired product, you're dealing with oxidized fats, which are known to contribute to inflammation, digestive issues, and long-term cellular damage. This isn't alarmism, it's what science has told us for years. Rancid oils and oxidized dairy fats are not inert, they are active biological stressors, and if you're eating them regularly, they compound over time. You won't smell it, you probably won't taste it, but it's there, and Challenge Butter didn't catch it until after the products were sold. Where's the oversight? Where's the accountability? Then we get to Land O'Lakes, which has quietly transformed its buttery spreads into seed oil bombs. Their so-called butter now includes a cocktail of canola oil, soybean oil, and palm oil, cheap industrial fillers with zero place in traditional butter. These oils are chemically unstable, oxidize easily, and are linked to chronic inflammation and metabolic disorders. They lower their costs while your health pays the price. It's not just misleading, it's dangerous. They don't label it as butter-flavored spread with seed oils. No, they lean on the butter name and rely on consumer ignorance to drive sales. This is what happens when marketing outpaces ethics. And finally, there's Bunge Butter. The recall here wasn't for altered fat content or oxidation. It was worse. Their product was pulled because it contained milk allergens that were not declared on the label. Let that sink in. In a time where food allergies are not only widespread but potentially life-threatening, this brand put people at direct risk of allergic reactions, ranging from skin irritation to anaphylaxis, and it only came to light after the product had already hit shelves and homes. That's the danger of a food system focused on volume, speed, and cost-cutting. When margins matter more than safety, this is what happens. Bad batches slip through, ingredient lists aren't verified, products aren't tested with any real rigor. It's the same pattern over and over, under-tested, under-regulated, and over-trusted. And the damage is not just physical, it's institutional. These incidents erode public trust. People lose faith in labels, they lose faith in brands, they stop believing that what they're buying is what they're eating. That mistrust doesn't come from conspiracy theories, it comes from real failures, over and over again, from some of the biggest names in the food business. This isn't just about switching brands, it's about recognizing the scale of the problem. The fact that you can't walk into a store and buy butter without having to research batch numbers, cross-reference recall lists, and check for undeclared allergens tells you how far we've fallen. And yes, there are better options. Companies like Organic Valley, Rumiano, and Strauss Family Creamery are doing things differently. Their butter is made the way it should be, with fermented cream from grass-fed cows, with no chemical additives. They don't cut corners, they don't quietly change formulas, they don't use fillers or fake fats. You know what you're getting because they tell you, and that transparency, it's worth the price, because you're not just buying a stick of butter, you're buying trust. You're buying a commitment to doing things the right way, even if it's harder, slower, or more expensive. These brands are proof that traditional transparent production is still possible and still better. And if more people supported them, we'd have a food system that actually respected the people it feeds. But that only happens if we stop treating recalls like rare events and start recognizing them as symptoms of a much deeper failure, a supply chain optimized for profit, not health, a regulatory framework that lets companies police themselves, and an industry that assumes you're not paying attention. Prove them wrong, scrutinize every label, research the companies, support brands that show their work, and when corporations mess up, hold them accountable. This recall wasn't a one-off. It was a flashpoint in a long pattern of deception and negligence, and unless consumers take a stand, unless we demand integrity from every brand we support, it won't be the last. Let's close this out with clarity, with urgency, and with zero sugarcoating, because if you've made it this far, you already understand. This isn't about a recall. It's not even just about butter. It's about a rigged system that sells you something impure, unsafe, and mislabeled, then acts shocked when the truth leaks out. Walmart didn't recall these 5 butter brands because they suddenly grew a conscience. They did it because they had no choice. The contamination was undeniable. The mislabeling was too blatant. The public health risk was real. And once these facts surfaced, once third-party tests and internal reports made it impossible to deny, they pulled the products. But here's what matters most. How long were these products on the shelf before they acted? How many people consumed altered, oxidized, or allergen-tainted butter without even knowing it? That's the problem. These corporations act late, and often only after they're forced to. Let's go over what we've seen one last time. Great Value butter, sold under the Walmart label, diluted its butterfat content. That means it's not legally butter. That means additives were used to mimic creaminess, and yet it was sold at full price with full marketing. No disclosure, no warning, just a quiet downgrade to something chemically engineered and nutritionally inferior. Kerrygold, a brand people associated with heritage, Ireland, and quality, changed its formula behind closed doors. It now includes skim milk and bacterial cultures, transforming what used to be one of the most trusted butters in the world. Not because it's better, but because it's cheaper. This is a textbook bait and switch. Brand loyalty built on one product, quietly redirected to a new, cheaper version without a single press release. Challenge Butter, a major name in the dairy aisle, let oxidized batches slip through, batches that tested high in peroxide, which is a marker of spoilage and rancidity. These aren't numbers you want to see in something you're spreading on toast. This isn't just about taste. This is about gut health, immune response, and chronic inflammation. Spoiled fats are biological stressors. They wreak havoc on your system, and this happened because of a breakdown in storage, oversight, or transportation, maybe all three. Land O'Lakes, another household name, didn't just alter a recipe, they overhauled the entire product. Seed oils like canola, soybean, and palm oil are now part of the mix, not labeled as seed oil spread, not disclosed prominently, just quietly mixed in, blended with butter, and sold to you as the same product you trusted. Those oils are oxidation prone, pro-inflammatory, and completely unnecessary in real butter, but they're cheap, and that's what mattered. To the manufacturer, not your health. And Bungie Butter, this one could have killed someone. They failed to disclose milk. It's not just an oversight, that's a violation of food safety law. People with dairy allergies, especially children, could have gone into anaphylactic shock. And once again, the response was reactive, not proactive. A recall after the danger was already in your kitchen. So what do we learn from all this? That these companies are not protecting you, that the food industry is flooded with shortcuts, omissions, and quiet betrayals, that even the most basic staple product in your fridge has become a potential hazard, not because it's complex, but because it's profitable to make it wrong. And this isn't just happening in the butter aisle. These exact patterns, quiet reformulations, hidden additives, fake eco-label, regulatory apathy, they're happening across the entire supermarket, from dairy to deli, from snacks to sauces, from bread to beverages. This is the consequence of a food system that's been industrialized, financialized, and disconnected from the people it's supposed to nourish. But here's the truth that matters most. You don't have to accept it. You can choose better. You can walk past the glossy brands with the nostalgic packaging and pick up something that's been made with real cream, traditional methods, and ingredient lists you actually recognize. Brands like Organic Valley, Strauss Family Creamery, Rumiano Organic. They cost more, yes, but they give you something that's becoming increasingly rare in the food world: honesty. These companies disclose what they use. They don't switch formulas in the dead of night. They don't pad their products with fillers and fake fats. And they don't treat food safety like a suggestion. They treat it like a responsibility. That's what food should be: safe, pure, accountable, and the only way to restore that kind of food system is to stop rewarding companies who've proven they'll cut corners the second you stop looking. That means checking every label. It means ignoring natural and farm fresh slogans and looking at the actual ingredient list. It means researching where your butter comes from. It means supporting local dairies when you can. It means saying no to diluted spreads and chemically altered imposters dressed up as premium dairy. And if you think one person doesn't make a difference, look again. Consumer demand is already shifting the market. More and more people are walking away from fake dairy, fake meat, fake flavor, fake labels. The corporations see it. That's why they're ramping up their greenwashing campaigns, their fake transparency websites, their misleading certifications. They know trust is eroding, and they're scared, because trust, once lost, is hard to win back. And the only way they'll fix what's broken is if we stop funding the lie. So the next time you're in the dairy aisle, remember this: that golden label, that red box, that traditional script font, it's not a guarantee of quality. It's a sales strategy, and unless the company behind it can prove what's in that stick of butter, they don't deserve your money. This recall wasn't an accident. It was the inevitable result of a food system that's gotten too arrogant, too careless, and too removed from the country. And the only way we fix it is from the outside in, one purchase at a time. If you've stuck with this to the end, you're not a passive shopper anymore. You're someone who sees through the branding, who understands that what we eat isn't just a private choice, it's a political, ethical, and deeply personal one. Every stick of butter, every label we read, every product we reject, it all adds up. If this changed the way you think about your fridge, hit like. If you know someone still trusting the brands that made this list, send this their way. Drop a comment below. What brands do you trust, and which ones have you left behind for good? And make sure you're subscribed, because this won't be the last time we expose how the most ordinary foods are becoming the most dangerous.